Hello again, YouTubers, on SpongeBob 11 back here again on the SpongeBob channel. In this video, we are reviewing SpongeBob episode 284, The Flower Plot, and SpongeBob on Parade. The synopsis states, the Chum Bucket is replaced by a flower shop with a charming new owner. Also, the Krusty Krab enters a float in the annual Bikini Bottom Parade. Let's dive right in. These two episodes have the Plankton plot theme and they're pretty great. Starting with the Flower Plot, the episode begins with Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob noticing that Plankton and Karen are packing it up and leaving Bikini Bottom to travel the world. SpongeBob isn't too glad, but once a wrecking ball destroys the Chum Bucket, Mr. Krabs celebrates with glee. The plot of land is then occupied by the Flower Pot Florist, a new establishment owned by Petunia. Krabs, SpongeBob, and Squidward all come around to say hi, but little do they know that Petunia is really just a robot controlled by Plankton himself, and Karen is dressed up as a sunflower. Nice. Along the way, Petunia becomes Squidward's love interest, but their first encounter is cut short thanks to Squidward's allergy to jellyfish bug stings. The whole plot is a breath of fresh air, especially since Plankton ends up getting distracted by being a florist. There's a whole montage of Petunia doing flower deliveries around Bikini Bottom and livening up everyone's day. Fast forward to some point later, the flower business is booming and Squidward keeps coming back to buy bouquets, obviously just to see Petunia. Unfortunately, Krabs demands that he return to work, and SpongeBob comes in to collect the flower bouquets that Krabs ordered for the Krusty Krab. At this point, Plankton has gotten so used to being or playing a florist that he decides that he wants to put his diabolical plans on hold so he can pursue his new dream relating to flowers, even demonstrating his skill in creating flower arrangements. However, Karen ruins this thought by reminding Plankton about the end game of the plan. The flower bouquets that had been prepared for Mr. Krabs was filled with explosives, and once the flowers were placed in the Krusty Krab, it would blow the place up and Plankton would be able to waltz in and seize the Krabby Patty secret formula. Now you would think that in typical Plankton fashion, he'll slap right back into high gear and proceed with the plan. However, Plankton, still posing as Petunia, realizes that a detonation would literally destroy all he's worked to build up in relating to his new business and the dream that would go along with it. Not wanting that to happen, Petunia rushes over to the Krusty Krab to gather up all the bouquets and bring them back to the Flower Pot Florist to defuse them and prevent them from collapsing everything. This actually works out for a while, albeit with Mr. Krabs being a little bit puzzled. Squidward, however, states Petunia is a perfectionist just like him and declares his love for her, ripping his shirt for some reason and running off to confess to her. Just as Petunia reaches the entrance of the flower shop, Squidward in his French outfit shows up again and proposes to Petunia. Obviously, there isn't any time for that since the explosives were to go off literally at any time. Unfortunately, the delay results in Petunia being blown up along with the flowers and Squidward revealing that Plankton was inside the robot the whole time. Squidward literally lies down in the sand, burying himself, and then a mob consisting of the various Krusty Krab patrons, Mr. Krabs, and SpongeBob forms, confronting Plankton. While everyone wants to step on him, SpongeBob is elated to find that Plankton had returned, and this gives Plankton enough time to drop the flower shop disguise and bring out the lasers. Plankton is back, folks. The plot is very refreshing. While Plankton plot episodes are always supposed to end in failure from Plankton, we got to see a different side of Plankton, putting his standard evil desires aside and finding something else that he enjoys doing is awesome to see, even going so far as to undermine his original plan just to save his new dream. It was also nice to see Mr. Krabs, Squidward, and SpongeBob finally having a business proprietor neighbor without a rivalry. Plus, poor Squidward, his hopes and dreams were so traumatically dashed. This plot gets 9 out of 10 from me. Animation gets 8 out of 10. The design of the Flower Pot Florist, in particular the insides, were great, and so were the disguises. I like the various scenes included in the montage, as well as SpongeBob's order sheet kilt or dress or skirt, and Squidward becoming a Frenchman. Great stuff. Unique characteristics gets 9 out of 10. I do enjoy more complex Plankton plot episodes, and the plan in this episode was genius. Using a florist or just any other business's cover is not something that happens with Plankton at all. Also, the way Petunia said, huh, was just so silly and funny at the same time. So it's kind of like the recurring thing. She just keeps saying, huh, at the end of every sentence. Has kind of the same effect as the raspberry from Rock Bottom. Overall, Flower Plot gets 26 out of 30 from me. SpongeBob on Parade, on the other hand, felt more like a typical unhinged Plankton plot episode. It begins with closing time at the Krusty Krab where a random fish comes by putting up flyers for the next day's annual Bikini Bottom Parade. Mr. Krabs suggests that the Krusty Krab should participate in it as well since it will generate plenty of free advertising. And you know free is Mr. Krabs' favorite word. Just as Squidward exits the Krusty Krab to go home, Krabs holds him back and demands that he and SpongeBob create a float for the parade, with Squidward being bestowed the honor of being the creative mind behind it. The Imagination Rainbow also makes an appearance here. Squidward designs a float literally of his likeness and demands that SpongeBob construct it. When asked about materials, Squidward declares that he couldn't care less and SpongeBob should just get the materials anywhere, which ends up being the dumpster. So fast forward to the morning. The float is completed and Squidward's drawing was used simply to patch a hole in that thing. How demeaning. SpongeBob also reveals that the paper within the secret formula bottle is actually a replica of the real formula. Why he would do such a stupid thing is beyond me, and Plankton, who happens to be spying on them, overhears this amazing news and devises a plan to crash the parade and seize the formula from the Krusty Krab float. Moving to the parade proper, the hosts are Perch Perkins and the Ice Cream King? Very random choice here, but you know, it is what it is. First up, Bikini Bottom High School marching band led by Pearl. This is followed by the Nitwits, yeah, those loons, and Mrs. Puff as her own balloon. Patrick's float was a thing, and it was literally just his rock with him sleeping on it. So how does that rock even move on its own? We also had the Larry's Gym float, very cool. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy in their invisible boatmobile with a cosplaying Bubble Bass tagging along. Very nice to see Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, even though we can't hear their voices anymore. Still nice to see them in the show. Along with Fred's My Leg float. Finally, the Krusty Krab float makes its grand entry with French fry confetti, and everything is going fairly normally until Plankton bursts out of a shed with his ramshackle Plankton float, immediately causing havoc and charging at the Krusty Krab float. He succeeds in ramming it and getting SpongeBob and Krabs to flee, and eventually secures the paper on which the formula was written. Mr. Krabs freaks out once he realizes Plankton's motive, but his worries are put to rest soon after, because in true ridiculous fashion, the final float of the day shows up sponsored by the gas station. It's a bunch of matchsticks and gasoline, so you can expect what happens after that, right? The parade literally goes out with a bang, and the formula is burnt up to Plankton's dismay. Plankton just goes mad after, celebrating the fact that he found out salt was an ingredient as part of the formula. Yeah, kind of feel bad for the guy going bonkers, man. The episode just ends with Perch Perkins declaring that the parade has turned into an apocalypse, and the Ice Cream King flies away with his new balloon, which just happens to be Mrs. Puff as well, still puffed up in balloon form. The plot was decent, if not for the unhinged Plankton attempt at stealing the formula. Did like the concept of using the parade as an occurrence in Bikini Bottom. I guess, it had to tie into something, because just having an episode on a parade itself is kind of boring. But still, scenes of SpongeBob actually putting together the float in the start of the episode would have been really nice to see. Unfortunately, we just didn't get any of that. So yeah, basically the episode ends in chaos and destruction, which is at this point really not uncommon. It gets 7 out of 10. Animation gets 8 out of 10. I like the use of various characters and concepts in this episode. They brought back the imagination thing, plus Squidward getting stuck in his beach chair, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy riding in their boatmobile once more, and also the Krabby Patty float design itself was really nice, as long as you don't scrutinize it. So, if you look at it carefully, it's probably just made out of garbage. Wasn't a fan of the Nitwits and the Ice Cream King, but, you win some, you lose some, right? The parade itself was fairly nice to see with the high school marching band as well. Unique characteristics gets 8 out of 10. On top of having a parade, we got to see plenty of returning characters, more overnight creativity by SpongeBob, and just a wacky and explosive episode all around. Not happy about Plankton, but someone had to ruin the parade, so yeah, Plankton, fine. SpongeBob's on Parade gets 23 out of 30 from me. That's all for this review. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought about these 2 episodes. Love to hear your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe, like, and I'll see you guys again in the next SpongeBob video. Till then, bye!